starts up, because the first classes will, of course, will be unknown to both players, and it's a blind pick. Kartoha starts with the rogue. I'm very happy about that, because rogues are always a pleasure to watch, especially yesterday matches were interesting when it comes to the rogues. All of them are actually playing Miracle Rogue builds, because the Quest Rogue, if someone is just turning in for, and didn't see the news, Quest Rogue got nerfed.
Oh no, again.
Again?
Is that twice? Okay, so this Miracle Rogue is interesting because how do you rate up these matchups? Miracle Rogue versus the Shaman we're going to see.
I would say that actually it's pretty similar, because quick Edwin can be a disaster for the Shaman. He has only one answer to it, which is the devolve, sorry. At the same time, the rogue can be very explosive, has access to card advantage, and has access to AoE spells that can kill mass minions, right? A Fan of Knives is pretty effective against a Primal Fin Totem if you can pair it up with an agent at the same turn, an example. So there's quite some ways of dealing with those pesky small minions.
So if he gets through this, he's then got Paladin or Jade Druid to take on with the Rogue, and it can win that. I mean, this Rogue deck is what I'm trying to say, could just 3-0 this. It's a really good deck in this particular matchup. And that's what happens if you get a lineup where your Shaman's getting banned because Shaman is so excessively powerful. The Rogue can just go 3-0. Be interesting to see if he loses this one with the Shaman. Nothum could be in trouble just because of the lineup.
Might be the case, but at the same time, the matchup is not very far away from each other when it comes to win rates from the Shaman and the Rogue. So it can go either way. With the Rogue class, though, it's a testament for both, some RNG, of course, and the skill of the player, because it's one of the most complex decks to play. But in this case, the hallucination picks will not be as huge as an impact like against a mage deck.
Yeah, I just trying to see where his rogue build is, but I can't find it because I'm looking in the wrong place, which isn't too smart. Yeah, the double giants in here. I was just looking whether the earthen spirit would be really good to just get two more giants.
Can't imagine a Miracle Rogue now without that double Arcane Giant.
Sure.
There's so many spells, especially Hallucination, change the amount of spells that you have in your deck. It so benefits the Arcane Giant a lot. They are great against Devils.
Yeah, just turn them into themselves or something good. And
also the Mimic Pot. Completely forgot about that card, right? With Arcane Giants, they're actually pretty sick as well.
Completely crazy. Unless you're playing, we've seen one or two Cold Blood Leroy builds, but that's the very rare build. It's not even Miracle, really. It's more like aggro, face, tempo rogue, whatever you want to call it. But this one is just good old-fashioned Miracle, and he's picked the tempo pick that he actually put down on turn 4 from that hallucination.
The problem is that Kartoha didn't draw a backstab. It would be very helpful in this situation. He's able to coin out the agent, but coining out the agent doesn't really deal with the Primal Fin Totem. So as much as I said about the abilities to clean up the boards, he is not having them right now.
And the reason he's thinking for so long about playing this agent, because in theory it looks pretty good facing off against the Primal Fin, is if his opponent has Flame Tongue Totem, he pretty much loses on the spot. If you coin out this agent, just kill a 1-2, and they have the comeback, you just lose.
Exactly. This is why he most likely will go for the Shaku, because the stealth will give him access to a guaranteed 2 damage next turn, which can be paired up with the dagger, and that kills the Flame Tongue Totem if that comes down. If not, he can deal with the Primal Fin.
Yeah, the raw power of the Shaman deck, not even having to have the cards in its hand to make your opponent do bad things. So that's quite important, that even though the card is not in the guy's hand, then he still has to play about it. He still has to misplay, if you like. He's played correctly, but it feels like it's a misplay if you can see both hands, just because he's playing around cards that aren't even there.
I think it was still even correct without the Flame Tongue Totem, but I can understand the sentiment. It's just, you have to grab the tempo back at some point in the game, and if you believe in your RNG, Shaku will give you lightning. That's called the finishers, right?
Yeah, it sends in a load of Murlocs, which get dealt with by Maelstrom portals. Yeah, not ideal.
Best. So Lasher this turn to give him access to combo with the agent next turn.
Yes.
or just Lasher to use the 1 damage to kill the Mana Rotate Totem, because he seems to be invested in killing the Totem, right? Hero Power is also an option, but then he cannot develop anything. So I wouldn't blame him for the pedal, the Lasher into a pedal, just to have more minions on board, get more damage in.
Yeah, and like you said, I think the key thing is he needs to... First of all, he's got to hope that there's nothing bad going to happen next turn, which might not work out. Secondly, he needs to kill that Mana Tide. And thirdly, he just needed the option to buy this time. But now he's just got too heavy a hand going forward. He's going to have to trust the deck. The deck is good at drawing low casting cost stuff. We've had this situation a few times, and Rogue's good at drawing low casting stuff for later.
Yeah, very decent when you think about it. The deck has 2 backstabs, 2 counterfeit coins, 2 preps, 2 hallucinations, Apaches, Swashbuilders.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Eviscerates, Petal Lashes, Edwin, Fan of Knives.
Should have a great chance at comboing, given that all the other stuff is in his hand right now. Needs to, though, because Bloodlust is becoming an increasingly dangerous threat. Oh.
No Fan of Knives and another whiff. That seems to be awkward. Now, next turn is actually Bloodlust, and how much damage is that? That's 618 plus 4, 6, 8 on board.
Yeah, it's enough. It's likely that something gets removed, but Kartoha's in such a spot here, he may decide that he can't beat Bloodlust, so he won't play around it. And that's what he's done. He's just said, look, if you've got it, then you win. If you haven't got it, these challenge your board for later.
Oh, he's overloaded by 1. Completely forgot about that.
Sure.
The Jade Claw.
My bad.
Yeah, Jade Claw was played less than, with the Milestone Portal actually being played as well. That means that the Call the Finishers is not that bad.
No, it does challenge this board. The same things I was saying, except he knew there was no Bloodlust because that's not how much it costs. And now Nothum's going to make some trades because his whole game plan is going to be using this 1-4 to protect his board, and he'll make the right number of trades to make sure the 1-4 is safe, and then he'll probably hit some face. Okay, he's happy to clear it all. And still ends up with 7 minions at the end of turn.
Yep. Sets up lethal for next turn. Right, we need a miracle for Kartoha, and that's not it. Wow, the draws were really not there for Kartoha.
Yeah, just couldn't pick up the low casting cost stuff. And Rogue does this. It sometimes picks up all the low casting cost stuff. Sometimes picks up all the expensive stuff. It does it more than any other class because there's 2 sorts of cards in your Rogue deck. There's the low casting cost stuff and the big stuff. There's not much in between a lot of the time. And this just happens sometimes.
Eviscerate is a little bit too late to the party.
Yeah, it's not so much a party as a massacre right now. And he can't deal enough to get rid of this time. And this time he's not overloaded, and Nothum will be able to take this 1-0 lead.
So if he uses the Eviscerate on the defender, takes out 1 damage from the board and 3 from the Bloodlust. That is 18, 20, 21, 22, 24 damage anyway.
And the Rogue, this is an important win, not just because it's 1-0 up, but this deck, the Rogue deck, did look like it had a chance to go through the whole lineup.
Yep.
And desperately needed to get rid of that. And now Nothum's Jade Druid becomes a lot more powerful. Having got that Rogue out of the way. Because Jade Druid really doesn't like Rogue.
Kartoha is left with... Wait, what was the ban?
The ban was his Shaman, so he's left with Taunt Warrior and Hoy's Paladin list, the Deathwing Paladin.
Deathwing Paladin.
It's just Murloc Paladin with a Deathwing in it. And has he got Vine Cleaver? Yes, he has. I didn't check.
But he has a Wicker Flame as well in this build.
And has he got... Was this the build? No, it's not. Somebody has 1 equality, but it's not this one. Okay. So
it's quite different, actually. No True Silver Champions in the deck. Double Relying Blade. 1 Wicker Flame. I'm not sure if actually he will pick it up. In this case, seems like it should be the case, but at the same time, Taunt Warrior has access to some AoE effects, so he might go with the Warrior.
Okay. So, yeah, it's a hard choice, actually. Taunt Warrior versus Miracle Rogue, we've not seen that much.
Against Shaman.
Oh, against Shaman, sorry, yeah. Sorry, he can't play himself, that's not how it works.
Yes, exactly.
So against the Shaman, the Taunt Warrior is indeed a decent favourite. It can just lose sometimes if the Shaman gets the good start. But in general, the Warrior just runs them out of resources. The tough bit sometimes comes after you've run them out of resources. They still keep pressing that hero power button, and you've got to make sure you get the momentum because you mulligan away the quest. So you have no quick win, and sometimes the Shaman can sneak back into it on like the second wind.
Yeah, the key cards for Nothum here will be exactly Flaming Totem, so I'm really happy to see that he kept it in his hand. It's one of those cards that puts pressure out of nowhere, because even small minions, even hero power is being very relevant, and that pushes Kartoha into his AoE effects when he doesn't really want to play them. And especially important against brawls, because if your Flaming Totem lives, I actually have seen that yesterday. The Taunt Warrior had really big problems with Flaming Totem because he lived through a brawl.
Right.
And that dealt like 12 damage after that.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And that early damage is so key because it just messes with what the Warrior wants to do. It means they're on their toes for Bloodlust the entire game. Kartoha will be really relieved to pick up that Stonehill Defender, by the way. His hand was absolutely tragic before that happened. It's still not great now, but at least it's a card that he knows he's going to get to play this game. And that's the better one. That's the card he was looking for.
That is a really good pickup, but the problem is he knows that the Shaman runs Pirates, but at this, you can't play around it.
No.
You can't play around weapon destruction, and there's some merit to keeping the weapon. So if your opponent played like 2 minions on turn 1, there might be a chance that he's just setting up a Flaming Totem on turn 2 to be super aggressive. But with the mulligan from Kartoha, I would actually be very cautious if I were Nothum to play the Flaming Totem when you know there still might be the fireworks kept in the mulligan. There was one card being kept.
And the other way around, Kartoha is thinking, I can deal with a Flame Tongue Totem, and I know he kept that second card along in his opening hand, and he's thinking, do I Dirty Rat?
Oh my, the thing from below already on turn 2, ready to attack.
Yeah.
A 5/5 minion with charge. Now with the now with the Flame Tongue, I don't know why I said that, but with the Flame Tongue Totem, it gives such a swing for Nothum. Kartoha will be pushed to use his weapon or sleep with the fishes and not take the damage, an example. So let's see what will be the option for him. No execute, of course. So he most likely will commit to the weapon. But then the Corsair comes down, cuts the weapon down, gets the patches, additional 2 damage, and it keeps rolling and rolling, while Sleep with the Fishes with an AoE effect is still 1 turn away.
And I think Kartoha was actually genuinely unlucky. I think he worked out there was good stuff to be hit in that hand from how the mulligan worked. If he hits a Bloodsail Corsair, if that Flame Tongue Totem that's been kept is a Bloodsail Corsair, if he hits that with a Dirty Rat, he's got rid of the thing that kills his weapon, and then everything is plain sailing. But it's going to be plain sailing for the Pirates instead, which is how Pirates normally work.
Yep.
And now he has obviously a world of trouble. I mean, that is the risk you always take. That's why Dirty Rat is such an interesting card.
Sometimes you hate it, sometimes you love it. It's an interesting design. I still don't know what to think about it. Is it like, you know, does it make your opponent want to quit the game? That's like something you don't want to do.
I think it was a good way of testing. Can we have any sort of hand destruction in Hearthstone?
Well, we had that.
It was like touching the sides of that and to see if it's any good. And I suspect after Dirty Rat, we won't ever see any hand destruction. It's annoying enough without actually being totally crazy.
In Alpha, there was quite some effects like that.
Right.
The Illidan discarded 3 cards from your opponent, actually. And the Mind Vision was actually stealing a card.
Right.
Thought Steals was stealing cards from opponent's deck as well.
And did people enjoy that?
I don't think so. Probably this is why, because this is the reason why they got changed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that Dirty Rat was just a nod to, or maybe if you're not stealing the card, but you're making it a bit weird, maybe we can make it work. And I don't think people hate Dirty Rat. I think it's annoying to some people sometimes, but what isn't? What cards are never annoying, ever?
No Healing Totem. I wouldn't be surprised if Nothum will just press Evolve, but he did not, and now he will sleep with the fishes.
Yeah, there was a good chance to heal up there. Still on turn 4, so no Brawl was available. I say by heal up, obviously, you transfer him into so many other things, and his hand hasn't got too much gas. He's got double Evolve. That would have been a good chance, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not sure why didn't he press the evolve button, because he was so far ahead, and still the brawl was not looming above him, right? Putting so much pressure, maybe it was worth it. Not sure about it, but he did not choose to do that. He didn't play around the sleep with the fishes this case, and Kartoha is back in the game.
Yep. Very difficult at the moment for Nothum to generate too much excitement. Of course, you can always pretend you've got Bloodlust. I say this every game. It gets really boring after a while, but it is the key thing about this deck, is your opponent has to play around Bloodlust no matter what he knows about your hand.
That is correct.
Oh. And that's why.
Look at that.
So now Nothum, if he does manage to stick a board, fair enough.
Sounds like a Murloc.
That definitely sounded like a Murloc. Whatever you just did.
I just bloodlusted.
I think you should apply to the Murloc Association for membership.
Get a card.
Not generating too much pressure, but Earth Elemental is hard to deal with without the execute, of course. It's there. So it's going to be fairly easy to deal with. Of course, Kartoha. This is the bit I was talking about at the start. Even though he's going to stabilize for now, in the next 2 or 3 turns, he's got the execute for the Earth Elemental, there's not much else happening. He has no way of putting any pressure on Nothum anytime soon, so Nothum can sit there and wait for his doppelganger to evolve twice, maybe.
Oh, look at that.
There's one of them.
Wow, that's actually a good timing.
It is.
Convenient.
So now you do this and you hope they don't have Brawl, but even if they do, you've got the second evolve and a chance of it happening again soon.
Okay. I guess this is this wasn't really a seriously bad outcome, but with that draw from Kartoha, the goal with second sleep with the fishes.
Sottle always says there's about 30 points worth of stats. That's how 6 5s adds up to 30. And like you say, this sleep with the fishes is going to take care of all this. The fact it was so balanced, rather than being like lopsided, was actually counting against Nothum here. Normally you'd expect to get something with 8 health and something with 3 health or whatever. But having all 5s has let Kartoha deal with his first big problem of this game.
Right, finally the Corsair might be played this turn. Ooh, definitely gonna get played this turn. And the Aya coming down will also give him some board presence. One Bloodlust was being played already, so the game plan for Nothum is not really that easy to just, you know, predict, because he has some parts, like he has the second evolve, he doesn't have the Flame Totem, he has no second Bloodlust in hand, so he needs to commit to the board, build some board presence, but at the same time he cannot capitalize on it.
Right.
So the fact that he picked up the Earth Elemental from the Stonehill Defender gives him that edge that he was lacking.
Yeah, it definitely does. And just I looked at Kartoha's face there when the Bloodsail Corsair was played, because some people would be like, I played Dirty Rat, where were you then? But he had no flicker of emotion at all. He would have known that's what happened, but he's just concentrating on the things that he can control.
Another doppelganger for the next turn. That's actually pretty insane. Because he knows there's no Brawl.
Yes.
There's absolutely no chance that there's a Brawl in hand, because it would have been played instead of that goal with the Sleep of the Fishes that turn.
Tar Lord is a nuisance, but the way through it is going to be that doppelganger to evolve. Normal totems, normal evolved shaman stuff doesn't get through it at all, but evolved stuff does. Let's see how he gets on with this evolve now.
I wouldn't blame him if he uses the hero power last.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of using the hero power a lot of the time after the evolve.
Yeah, you have no chance of getting the Doomsayer, right? And also, if he gets a charge minion, he is able to pair it up with the... never mind. With the Flame Tongue Totem. Wow,
yeah.
Those are not really the best.
I think maybe when you're behind like this, he must feel like he's behind, even though it's close. You can roll the totem first, but I always prefer to do it second. Not just the Doomsayer, but I like to build up my totem army. I like to get all 4 down there.
Kartoha is running low on health and low on board presence, but that Brawl coming down to his hand gives him an insurance. Now he has to think, do I want to use it this turn, or do I want to keep it for another time? He still has a really huge taunt on the way, but now he commits to the brawl. The outcome is super important.
Nothum knows it. Playing to the crowd a little bit there.
And Murloc lives. Not anymore.
It didn't live for long.
But
now
still, there's a refill for Nothum. The Aya is pretty insane. There's no weapon for Kartoha. He is in a really dire position.
Yeah,
oh my god, and the Bloodlust. All the win conditions being drawn by Nothum already.
They have, and they should win. But if this one gets got rid of, if somehow Kartoha can hang on, then the Bloodlust, all 4 cards will have been used. So if Kartoha can somehow get back into this, and I don't really think he can, but there will be ways, actually then he's a plain sailing from that point on. I've used that phrase twice. I'll use a different one next time.
All right, well, 10 damage already starting on the board against Kartoha. He's at 12. So he needs to hero power. He needs to play the taunt. There's like literally no other way of playing this turn.
I think you have to whirlwind to get rid of the 1 health Jade, because it's going to hit you for at least 3.
Yeah. Oh, he kept the whirlwind, but he doesn't have any more sleep with the fishes.
Maybe it adds up with a primordial drake to do 3 to the other stuff.
Well, doesn't really matter. Nothum will be taking it, if I'm not mistaken, because that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 17, and
don't forget there'll be a little bit of armor will be
damage,
gained.
the damage is off by 1 trigger of the Ali Armorsmith.
See if we can do math.
No, never mind.
We can't.
We can't. But I think Nothum was actually not sure as well.
I think because he actually just pointed. We were trading, and he's just pointing that into the thing to save the extra armor, and that works out well. That's the way to do it. That's why he sat there. Exactly. Okay, he gets the win. The shaman deck. Raven's been on about it all tournament. Why isn't it banned? Tell you why it's not banned, because his mage deck looked absolutely insane against this lineup, which means that the mage deck, in a way, is winning this match.
Well, that's a trademark for last hero standing format. There's a lot of decks that can sweep the format, but I like this aspect actually, because that creates some storylines. Like you can remember last year's DreamHack Valencia.
Yeah.
Evangelion was actually playing with an Zoth Paladin, and at some point in the top 16, I think he had 11 wins in a row with the deck.
I think I remember that.
10 or 11, it was something ridiculous. And then he ended up the entire tournament with 12-1 record with that deck, which is insane, and that's something that no one will forget. And that's the beauty of last hero standing. You will not ever say anything like that about Conquest, right?
And it wasn't modern day N'Zoth Paladin. It's like, why are you playing this N'Zoth Paladin? It's not like now someone plays N'Zoth Paladin, oh, that's a big part of the meta. It was in the meta, but it was only a small part of the meta at that time. It wasn't really regarded as an important deck. And so nobody brought counter to it, and he just went splosh all the way through the field.
Yep. And Nothum with the 3rd game in a row with his Evolve Shaman.
Yeah, and this isn't a fun matchup for the Paladin. I mean, it's not a terrible one, but it's not a good one, especially if you've got the coin, because you end up not being able to get the traction to keep that board.
But look at that, Nothum is actually in a really tough spot. He did get to draw the patches, and he is first in this game, so he essentially lost a lot of card advantage. While Kartoha can commit to a 10-1 Murloc with stats to 1 and a 3-2. So unless there's a Flame Tongue Totem, the bigger Murloc will survive.
There is a Flame Tongue Totem though. He doesn't know that. It's interesting as well with the patches, because even though it's a bad card and you don't want it in your hand, I'm not going to make excuses and say you do, but with a Flame Tongue Totem, and in this particular matchup, it's nowhere near as horrible as normal.
Yeah, and it could have actually been useful as well with a Bloodlust. We've seen that yesterday. Yep. It actually allowed some players to win a game because of it. Yeah, I like the Primal Fin Totem here.
Yeah, I think the fact your opponent's not spamming the board and the fact you've got a Flame Tongue means you want to get as many minions on the board as possible. I agree with you. Primal Fin here just helps you. Next turn you can have 3 minions attacking, because you can also play the patches next to the Flame Tongue and attack with that as well. If you need to clear some sort of crazy board state or some sort of noble sacrificed protected minion. You can do it all next turn.
Yep. The thing that was Nothum thinking about was the fact that his opponent is playing 2 Relying Blades.
Okay.
So there's a huge chance that his Primal Fin Totem can just get us killed, but that's not the case, so he can benefit from the Flame Tongue Totem. And now let's see, how does the damage look? It actually allows him with the patches to clear up the board and still have a Primal Fin Totem alive.
And that's a massive deal, because just churning out minions, if the Paladin's paying 1 or 2 mana for their minions and you're not paying any for yours, they're never going to be able to stick a minion, they're never going to be able to play their Spike-Ridge Steed, although there's plenty of ways that can be arranged yet. Playing Consecration, not really great against these boards, because even if it can clear them, it can't, because they just put more stuff back down.
Yep, kind of awkward. So Relying Blade needs to be drawn. No, it's a Finja. Finja can be played next turn. Wicker Flame doesn't look that terrible.
It doesn't, actually. It holds up this board, given he's like 1 on 3, and he holds it off pretty well.
Yep. The other Flame Totem would be needed to buff the attack.
I think you just take your time, right? You just build this board. Maybe bump in with a 3-1, just get rid of the Divine Shield. But you need to protect this Primal Fin one way or another. That's what he's going to do.
Interesting. Because I
think
like
he's thinking about positioning.
I feel like the Defender would actually be more beneficial here.
It would. I agree. Maybe he feels he wants to be mega mana efficient. Next turn he can play that and roll a totem, and that's why I think he was thinking about positioning on this, because the totem's going to be in the wrong place now.
But he would have been able to play the thing from below next turn as well.
Sure.
With the hero power.
Sure.
And the difference between 7 and 3 attack when your opponent has a taunt minion doesn't make a difference, and he's not really looking to end the game like next turn.
Yeah,
so
you know how he just wants.
Yeah, the point of the damage, with or even the Bloodlust in the hand, doesn't really make much of a difference, while tempo gain in future turns with the thing from below might be more effective, and the fact that you will have an additional card from the Defender can also change the way you play the game.
Right.
Not saying it's a misplay, it's a different line of thinking. Both have their ups and downs, just the Stonehill Defender gives you more options, right?
Yeah, and you're right, it isn't a difference of playing on curve, because it would be the reduced cost, of course, on the thing. All right, Kartoha's looking at his ways back into the game, and setting up a Finja is usually one of those good ways of doing it. That's why people have ended up putting it back in the deck, even though it no longer does anything particularly exciting combo-wise. It just refills your board, and against a deck that fills boards so easily, that's really important.
The problem is you can't play Spike-Ridge Steed now on turn 5, which would be perfect when you have a stealth minion.
Yeah, that would be a very nice.
Thing from below or Wide Eyes. Seems like tempo is better than anything else, especially that it can be played for 3 mana next turn. I don't believe you would like to go for the Evolve this turn. We had seen in previous games situations when it was actually warranted, but in this case you still have a very commanding lead.
He's saying that was a mistake because he rolled the Taunt Totem, but he had already played the Stonehill, so the Consecration was going to allow Finja to do its thing anyway. Saying it's a mistake because the Taunt Totem could be killed by Finja and no damage, so he's feeling he shouldn't maybe have rolled that Totem, because this was a very likely outcome.
That's true. It won't make a difference, though.
It won't.
So, let's see. What is the outcome of the Finja?
I'm going to say he gets 2 Murlocs. Look at that.
Sweet. Not really the best, but at least there's a buff on the Tidecaller.
Yeah, and... Oh, see ya.
But is it impactful? No, you need to keep it. You need to keep it because if your opponent plays any buffs, you have no answer. So Blessing of Kings is a real threat. A double Spike Steed, of course, in the opponent's deck is actually pretty big as well. So this has to be something different. But you need to kill the Finja.
Yeah, if you're going 7 to face, you're thinking of devolving.
Yeah.
You're trying to get that 7 through any taunts that might happen.
Or he is thinking about playing second Thing from below, but first evolving.
Okay.
So 7 damage to the face, 1 drop, hero power, evolve, think from below. That's 4, that's 6. Yes, that's exactly enough.
This looks so much better. None of the options seemed very nice. You don't want to run into a 2-2 with a 7-1. It hurts inside, but this is definitely the right play in my opinion.
Right.
When you look at the board after what he did that turn or how it started the turn, it looks good.
Yeah.
Oh.
With 2 hunters.
Don't tell Raven there's 2 hunters. He'll be all over that.
Ah. So now you have to think about what is better, Spike Steed or multiple Murlocs. If you play the War Leader, you are guaranteeing that the trade with the Tide Caller comes into play with the things from below. Then the Inquisitor can kill the Flametongue Totem, and that's amazing. And you're not getting blown out by the Evolve if you play the Spike Steed.
Which means you can keep the Spike Steed anyway.
Yeah.
So for later, you can get this big wide board. It's not like usually the reason for playing Spike Steed on 6 is because it might be your only chance. Or it's going to just win you the game by blocking off pirates or whatever. But this time, you're going to have plenty more chances to play Spike Ridged. And you're going to be in a very dominant position for now on the board. But, as we can see, Devolve will take care of some things at some point whenever he wants to.
Nothum is running out of steam. This double Evolve sits there awkwardly without a activator for it, which is the Doppelgangster. It is really awkward. He doesn't play Barnes in his deck, right?
I don't believe so. Let's have a quick look.
Nothum, Shaman. No, there's no Barnes. So basically what he wants to have is Doppelgangsters.
He's gone for it. He's gone for the Evolve.
Fantastic.
I mean, yeah. You seemed thrilled by that Evolve. I mean, it made sense that he had a go, but you've got to get really good rolls to get that hand to work. Oh dear.
Ah, this hurts.
Do you play them both? Do you play one?
You can trade with your entire board anyway, so I wouldn't mind one. But playing both, like if the War Leader lives till the next turn, it's absolutely bonkers.
And by playing it, obviously that gets the Devolve out, and now your Spike Ridge Steed gets so much better. Kartoha got this game on a piece of string. Oh, more Lore Walker Chose.
Oh, that Lore Walker Cho is actually pretty awkward. Now you can't play the Spike Ridge Steed. I mean, if you play it, that's pretty bad.
It's so hard to get rid of. The only way to get rid of it is to put a Spike Ridge Steed on it. But then that's done the job anyway of giving your opponent the Spike Ridge Steed you don't want to give them. This is better though. This card's quite good.
Yeah, and now with the 2 in hand, it doesn't actually need to do everything.
Can I have a Bloodlust, please, from Cho? That might help.
Huh.
Looking like Nothum just isn't really going to escape this game.
It was like, yeah, I'm going to J-lighting this War Leader. Oh, wait.
Yeah, what is it buffing? None of the above apart from the dude.
And the Panda is not really doing something that I would like to see. So the Jade Lighting goes back now to Kartoha. Just keep it. Well, this is awkward.
Gentle Megasaur. All of the synergy coming too late, but it's not going to matter, I don't think. There's just so much good stuff for Kartoha to do here.
Divine Shield on the Lore Walker, calling it down. Ah. Well, it did get the 0-4.
Divine Shield, just to make the world an even more hateful place.
Yeah, this seems really to be rough for Nothum without Doppelgangster draw at all. Turn 10, so he is left with, I think, 17 cards in his deck. No Mana Tide Totem was being played. So, a little bit unlucky, but at the same time, he did get like 2 wins with the deck already.
Very important turnaround as well, because Nothum's other 2 decks are his other Paladin, his own Paladin, which is similar enough. I mean, there are differences. And Druid, Jade Druid, which doesn't like playing against Paladin much at all. In fact, every time everyone stops playing Crabs, I have to stop playing Jade Druid because everyone starts playing Paladin again.
Oh, wait. That Tyrion seems lazy.
But did he just chill?
Yeah, he chilled for one turn.
Okay. Walker handing it over. There's 2 more damage.
So there's no setup for lethal next turn because of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The reason I went quiet, I'm trying to think how Nothum can ever win this game. How does he get back into it? He's got to clear this lot and then find a way to get through and do 20-something damage.
Well, he can count on getting a Doomsayer out of his own evolve, but that's about it because then he lacks win condition. And yeah.
He's laughing because now Deathwing's just there as well.
6, 5, it's 11, 12, 17. It would actually have been lethal if he would have attacked last turn. No, he would still miss some damage. But it was very close.
Yeah, I don't think Kartoha he's not playing to win this as quickly as possible. He's playing to get rid of every 0.0% that could possibly go wrong. Personally, I think the thing that's most likely to go wrong out of everything is a regame, the 1 in a million chance. So I think you should just get on with it anyway.
That's actually quite interesting. There's like only 2% chance that Nothum wins this game. Maybe even less.
Yeah, it's less.
So I wonder what would be the decision, right? In case, like, an example, there's a tower outage.
Go pull the plug out and we'll find out.
I mean, if I would have been the judge, I would probably say, hey, there's no way you
deal
win
with
this
it.
thing.
Yeah. Prove how you could ever win. I hope that rope stops burning really soon, otherwise we might be fired. Good, the game is carrying on. We're safe again. Well, just going through the motions.
Yeah, there's really not much to say about this. Like, it's a grind fest. Now Nothum wants to have a Doomsayer out of this.
Okay, going for his last evolve.
Oh! Oh, no, never mind. That was a Pyromancer. I was sure that it is actually a Doomsayer.
They're really similar looking, actually, when you're just glancing as a caster, when you're glancing between different things, you look at the board, and there's a big orange thing there. It's usually a Doomsayer.
Yep. Lower Shaw actually didn't do really anything impactful in this game. Nothum is sacrificing his board and then presses.
2-1 ahead, but he has Jade, Druid, and his own Paladin left. His Paladin is different, so he does have one equal. This is a build that was around quite a while ago. It plays Finger, it plays quite a fast package. It does play Tyrion and Ragnaros, though, and 1 equality.
But it only has 4 1-drops. 2 Tide Callers and 2 Inquisitors, although of course it has Hunters and Hydrologists, it has less synergy with the War Leaders.
Yep, 2 weapons, 1 True Silver, 1 Rallying Blade. This was, again, I feel this is a deck that was around a few weeks ago when people weren't quite sure which way to go. And since then, in general, I think UK Paladin was the later version of this, but there are lots of differences again. The equality is huge. And having 1 equality is interesting in revealed deck. Yes,
because then you kind of have to play around it, but at the same time you can't really push yourself to play around it too much, because there's only 1 equality. It's like playing around a legendary card. Like, you can't really do that, right?
Right. But they could have it, and also they can put you in spots where they can pretend they have it.
Yeah.
And I like 1-ofs in revealed decks. I don't like 1-ofs much on ladder or when you're trying to play not revealed decks, but revealed decks, a 1-off can really get in your opponent's head.
Well, that's the reason why I didn't like Reno Jackson's decks. It's so hard to play around them. It's like, it's a guessing game, and it turns out the best way to play against a Reno Jackson is just not to play around anything.
Yeah, that took a while for people to work out, including myself. It's like, yeah, you play around packages, like there's 7 removal cards. So you play around those 7 cards as a group, not as 1 card. But it's not an exact science, so I think this is good. But they've chosen, like, you can choose to put 31-ofs in your deck if that's how you want to build it. You just don't have Reno Jackson to help that now. It's going to be, the trade-off is going to be you don't know what to play around versus some of my cards are bad and I don't have Reno.
So Kartoha faces a very difficult decision to make. The charm on its own, I have no justification to playing it right now. You're not playing a really like tempo-based matchup, especially when you have a relying blade in your hand and you can afford to take some damage and swing back with the weapon.
Yep.
Especially since you don't have synergy for turn 2 with that Murloc. I could understand the charm, even without the battle cry trigger, if he had another minion that benefits from the fact that there's a 1-drop.
How many 2-drops does he have?
Whoa, he goes for it.
How many 2-drops has Kartoha had? It's a few, right? He's got 2 hydrologists, 2 Rockballs, so he's only got 4 out. So like 1 time in 6, roughly, he will pick up a 2-drop here.
Yeah. And now for Nothum, this is a big no-no. You can't play the Tide Color. What if he will top deck the Hunter? I mean, he knows there's no Hunter in the hand, but because nothing is glowing. But at the same time, what if he top decks that? And then my Tide Color is super bad. I just lost it to nothing. And I have the option to play Coin Relying Blade next turn. And even if that doesn't happen, what I can do is turn 2, play Tide Color into Hunter with the coin and have 2 really big Murlocs on the board. Because you know that the opponent is not having Murlocs in the hand, so no War Leader synergy.
Kartoha now, it's always a difficult choice whether to spend the 2 mana on the hero power or get the 1/3. It's a better minion, but it still costs you 2 mana because you miss the rest of your go. So usually you hero power and you just have to delay the Vile Fin, and then later on you get to hero power twice in 1 turn. It sort of catches you back up a little bit.
Back to Nothum. Stonehill Defender. Seems decent, but the problem is that coin would look very juicy with the Curator on turn 6 to replenish his hand as soon as possible. What an awful defender. Dingo, that's nothing you want to see.
Yeah, although, I mean, I do agree normally, but on curve, actually, in this matchup with these hands, it's going to work out nicely for him.
Yeah, but you would rather have a Tyrion.
I would rather have a Tyrion because this game's going to go on a long time. No one's going to kill anyone anytime soon. I would definitely rather have a second Tyrion. 30 points of Ashbringer is the amount of Ashbringer I like.
Kartoha gets some value out of the weapon, gets to kill a minion with the second swing. Pretty cool if you ask me. And the Tide Caller now without like a without a call from his opponent that he has a weapon. He thinks it might actually be alive, but still there's a 2/4 minion on the board.
And this is where the Dingo is going to be useful. Because he's a little bit behind on board, it is going to buy him some time to get that Rallying Blade set up. And again, look at his 7/8/8. There's no hurry for Nothum. Yeah, he can play it next turn as well. That's absolutely fine. But if he gets through to turn 7, he will fancy his chances with that lineup.
Well, at least he can generate 2 Murlocs out of it, right? That's something.
Yeah.
He is on curve, but he's still lacking the Warlock, the Murloc synergy. But at least what he achieves within this turn is he almost guarantees a minion to be played with the Spike-Rid Steed on the next turn. So that's really important.
Yep. And this is weird, right? When people started playing the faster Murloc Paladins, which both these are somewhere in between, whoever went first had a big advantage. But at the moment, it's not mattering that much. It's more of a grind fest. Can you just get that extra bit of value? And Spike-Rid Steed sticking to the board first is one way to get that early advantage.
That's true. Sometimes, of course, there's a match when someone plays Tide Caller into Hunter and it's
War Leader.
It's gone. It's
Megastar.
like you can't really do much. Without equality, and even with equality, when there's a War Leader on the board, you can't really do much. So it is pretty awkward at that stage. So there are some blowout draws. But they're not happening that often.
They're not necessarily coin related though. They're just like who gets that draw can just blow out.
Yep.
Yeah, you just do those two, then you go War Leader Megastar. It's like, that was fun. But a lot of the games, if you avoid that start, and both of these did avoid that start, you get into this really interesting grind because each individual decision doesn't make much difference in the short term, but they add up over the course of the game because you see so much of the deck.
Yeah, that is correct. A little bit unfortunate for Nothum to pick up the Primordial Drake from the draw because that's his only dragon in the entire deck. So that was the draw from the Curator. So now the Curator will only draw a Stampeding Kodo and a Murloc, which is still fine, but he would definitely fancy a free draw.
Yeah, of course.
Draw,
yeah, definitely. Kodo's a nice pickup though in this when he does get it because it deals with the 2/6 part of the steed nicely. I mean, it can, but at the moment there's more things in the way. But if he sets it up right, he could be able to deal with that with it. Of course, again, we have to keep stressing this, even though it's boring to some of you. Deck lists are open, and so Kartoha will make sure there's a 1/1 on the board as soon as the Curator is played, because he will know that the Kodo's hanging around, or that there's a good chance that it is.
What is Kartoha thinking about? Getting the value out of the 1/4. It doesn't make a difference against... I mean, it does make a difference against Consecration.
Right.
It doesn't make a difference against True Silver Champion, but Nothum is playing one True Silver Champion, right?
Yeah, one True Silver. So these one-offs that make his life tricky. And that's a Mega Saw. So Curator is going to do its thing. Would it be Mega Saw number 2? It is, so no Kodo.
There is no Kodo. Which is a little bit okay because of the fact that you are having multiple targets with one attack, especially against a paladin who has just a hero power. So it's not really that impactful. And having double Megazords though allows him to benefit from the hero power more, and the hydrology seems to be way better.
Yeah, it really does. Just looking though, this is going to go on for some time. And let's have a look who has the best late game. I think that Nothum's deck. So it has one Drake, one Light Lord, one Tyrion. Sorry, yeah, it's Nothum's deck. Kartoha's deck has one Deathwing, one Vine Cleaver, one Tyrion. Not much in that. You can't really play the Deathwing yet, or basically ever. You can't play it yet. It's not in your hand. But
good point.
That helps. But it's going to be soon.
Right, Vine Cleaver now kind of says to my opponent, well, I have a Tavern, I want to benefit from it this turn. I mean, next turn. Which might be a bluff, and Nothum might commit because of that into a mass removal. Although, I think, like, even without the Tavern in the hand, he would have just commit to the Primordial Drake anyway.
Yeah, and he does, and off you go.
So why do you think that Kartoha played his Vine Cleaver before he played the Tyrion? Because now the Tyrion kind of gets delayed by multiple turns.
Yeah, I mean, there's two options. Maybe he just felt he needed to get the Drake out there so he could start dealing with it. Or maybe he just... I don't know, maybe that's it. Maybe he just doesn't value those extra 2 charges enough and he's just going to play the Tyrion anyway. But what's happening here is, we said it might go deep as if they don't get the snowball start. And slowly but surely, Nothum's hand is just being... increasing. It's been awkward for him, but he's not taken any real beatings for it being awkward. And Kartoha needs Curator, or he needs this Finger to go crazy. Otherwise, he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
The fact that Nothum did have the Curator and Kartoha didn't, well, just shows the way of the hands are being built right now. The problem for Nothum, though, is that he is lacking any more AoE effects. So that Vine Cleaver kind of builds up the presence. This might be problematic a little bit, but at the same time, every single turn from now on, he is in a commanding lead when it comes to the weapon situation, I would say, because he will be able to swing through those huge taunt minions, and if he just gets to pick up a single Consecration or wait, does he have 2 Drakes? Nothing? No, he only plays 1.
1, yeah. Both of them are a little bit light in their late game, and they've both drawn it. Again, there's Deathwing is something that could change this around going forward, but Nothum just has more options right now, as well as more cards gives you more options when you're only playing 1 or 2 cards each a turn. So Kartoha cannot afford to lose this board, because if he does, I know he has Tyrion, we normally say that's a comeback mechanism, but your opponent has 6 Paladin cards already and is not in any sort of trouble right now. Good pickups from the Finger.
Well, now it doesn't really look great for Nothum. Because the swing, because of the Primordial Drake and the Wall Eater being drawn on the board, the swing of damage is actually pretty high. So without a way of dealing with that board, might be facing a huge problem.
Yeah, picking up the war leader is a big, big deal here.
Reporting for duty.
There goes the Vine Cleaver, and that delayed Tyrion looks all right. It's just sitting there as backup plan to this massive army that came from Finja managing to get the war leader.
So 8, 11, 13, 14, 18 damage on the board.
Yeah. And although Nothum has options, they're all garbage. Basically, two choices really: Spite Steed or heal yourself for 8 and get an 8/8 down. I guess with this option you might get a further taunt from a redemption, or you might get a noble sacrifice, just buys you a little bit of health.
He seems to be committed to the Ragnaros, but he thinks a little bit about the Spiker Steed, because the Spiker Steed buys him essentially more life, but the problem is it doesn't set up a clear on the board, while the Ragnaros most likely has to be killed by his opponent, so soaks in some damage and clears up the board. If Nothum would have a Consecration in his hand, he would most likely favor the Spiker Steed to just damage a little bit those minions, those pesky Murlocs, first of all, and then deal with them with a Consecration.
Yeah, Kartoha does have to keep this clear if he hasn't got lethal, which he has not, because Tarim's going to be there as well. Kartoha knows the texture of Nothum's hand just because it's been around in his hand for so long. He knows some of the cards exactly, he knows some of them roughly, but he knows that it's a clunky hand.
He knows that there's at least one beast in his opponent's hand because of Curator. So it might be a Stampeding Kodo. Doesn't really make much of a difference with this setup here.
Right. But all of a sudden, like, we're used to these wide boards being super threatening because of Shaman. And this is threatening enough, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite the same impact when you have to trade 4 of them in to kill 1 minion. Whereas Shaman, you just do it again. Kartoha's done a good job. I said he has to never lose this board, and we talked about Finja being the only way he had. He still hasn't lost this board, but the same thing still applies. If he ever loses it, he's not going to fight back.
Yeah, he's still facing the same situation as the turn before. So he needs to delay the game as much as possible. The problem is Tarim actually adds stats on the Murloc, decreases it on the Tyrion, but that's about it.
I mean, he's looking for a quality Consecration. He has 1 equality, 2 Consecrations, and he has none of it going on right now. He's got a long, long time to go. He's not playing Deathwing, it's Kartoha who's playing Deathwing. Nothing's going to have to do this the old-fashioned way and just take his time and be very efficient. Hello?
Is that lethal? 6? No. 3, 8, 1, 6 damage to the phase maximum. That's the maximum potential. So unfortunately not.
Do you go... Your job is to keep hold of this board. Stonehill and Stonehill seems a decent way of doing that.
Out of my jungle.
Oh, those are pretty awkward.
They're rather sad options. Has he used the Rallying Blade just for any sort of buff? This is fine. Just doing what we're saying, just keeping the pressure on. He knows, again, it is up to him to finish this off. So these Spite Steeds are going to come in handy for when the weapon is made, when the Ashbringer appears. So Nothum's done a good job of looking after those. But getting to the point now where he's going to just have to stop himself from dying with them, Spite-Ridged.
Nothum is holding by the thread, but without any impactful drops from the defender, it's not really looking great. Wow, another Soggoth.
Yes, Soggoth might be pretty good for Nothum, though, in particular, because there's no equality in the other deck. And 5/9 is going to have to just be bashed through.
And the 5/9, actually, when you think about it, if it's going to get dealt with the Ashbringer, makes it really awkward for Kartoha's life totals.
Yeah, if he goes through it twice, that's definitely the case. And
so slowly grinding it back by Nothum, He still will face some problematic cards like the Ashbringer at some point, but now with the bluff on the secret, like this is really awkward. You want to trigger Redemption or Getaway Kodo
Yep.
on the defender, I think.
Every time I see Psychotron, I wonder why it just can't quite squeak into some of these decks. It's just not quite statted enough, but it often just looks good as a pickup, as a card that is a surprise value.
Test me, child.
Just does enough.
Get down!
Get down, indeed.
Can play time. He knows there's a consecration. He can just ignore the minions.
Yeah, at this point, Kartoha's probably starting to wonder what is that. Whichever Megazord he doesn't know is a beast. That card's been there a long time. And I would imagine he thinks it's Consecration by now. Or Equality, and he's just being... You know, he's got to assume one of those two cards are in hand. It's gone this long. And this is the thing that when the Paladins don't get that early start, Kartoha's been in control of this for how long now?
Since turn 8, basically. Because that was a turn with the Vine Cleaver. And now it's, I think, turn 13 or 14.
Right, and he hasn't, I mean, he's got close, he's done a lot of damage, but he's still just chipping away and not quite there yet.
Yep. Now Nothum also has a very interesting turn. I was actually thinking about maybe he should have gone wide with the Murlocs, because with the double Megazord in his hand, he had access to 4 Murlocs on his side. 4. That's actually huge board presence, and Kartoha did use, if I believe correctly, if I know correctly, 2 of his Primordial Drakes already.
How can Nothum deal with Deathwing, the threat of Deathwing plus Ashbringer swings here? So he can deal with a 12-12 with various cards, he can deal with Ashbringer by putting up taunts. What hand does Kartoha put him on that can deal with both those two things in one go?
Well, he's Peacekeeper and Stampeding Kodo. That's what deals with Deathwing.
Sure, but then you just hit him in the face with Ashbringer twice.
Yeah.
So he needs to be able to deal with the Ashbringer, he needs to be able to deal with the Deathwing as well. It would be a brave call just to slap it out there, but I'm wondering if there's actually a way in the real world to deal with both threats at once.
Otherwise, he'll be pushed to use his Murlocs to a defensive, in a defensive way. That means he'll have to just go for the taunts. No Deathwing this turn. Kartoha doesn't want to pull the trigger and just set up a really huge blowout. He is worried about the equality. He is worried about the Peacekeeper Kodo.
Yeah, like a Spite Ridge Steed Peacekeeper. Have we seen both steeds?
No, we have seen 1 steed and 1 Peacekeeper.
So that is a way that could be stopped. But there aren't many others. There's no Harrison or anything like that in the deck.
He set up a commanding board anyway with that Tarim and a War Leader.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing it the way that is less risky in the old-fashioned sense of the word, but sometimes the way that's less risky is giving your opponent the chance to get out of it. At some point, he's got to expect he's going to get equality consecrated. It just hasn't happened over the course of these 15, 16 turns. But it's a thing he was probably expecting. Now he knows that that isn't a quality that's been handed for ages. And Nothum, it doesn't matter what he knows, Nothum has to give it up. It goes to 2 games apiece. And Nothum's going to have to try and get it done with a Jade Druid.
We have a game. The last game of the match will be, as you said, Jade Druid against the Paladin. It took a while to actually decide who won this game. Had seen that Kartoha is in the control, but it could have been swung back in favor of Nothum and a single turn if you would have to draw an AoE or equality.
Yeah, he held on in there, but Kartoha knew his role. He knew that the way to do it was, this is it, I've got to make this push work. And it's not the regular use of the word push when it takes something like 9 turns to keep going, but he did. He just went all in basically every turn, give or take.
Yep.
And the Finger got the job done. That's when the Steamroller, the Vine Cleaver you highlighted on turn 7, which meant he delayed his Tyrion, but it worked just nicely.
He played it actually on turn 8.
Sorry, turn 8.
Yeah.
And the Finger. which...
Finja was actually game-winning.
Yes.
The Finja was game-winning also because of the fact that they pulled in the War Leader. Because that was a lot of damage that did pile on for several turns. And that was actually super huge.
Yeah, before the Finja, I think he might have been in trouble, but the Finja did the right thing. He was a good little ninja and did it the right way. This is the start that Kartoha is going to need if he's going to win this.
Wow. He is looking awesome in this matchup right now, especially with the buff on the War Leader, because he can coin out the bigger War Leader next turn that can be only dealt with a swipe or a Feral Rage if that doesn't happen.
Right, and Nothum's got all the answers, though. He can kill the first War Leader with a Feral Rage, he can kill the second one with a Wrath, and that gets him into the position where he starts to play either his Blossom or his Spirit, occupying the board, and the Murlocs will be running thin at that point. This is a good little teaser, though, but this could be ignored. I think Jade Blossom now comes down.
Fortunately for Kartoha, he did pick up a small Murloc that can play on turn 2 instead of committing to a War Leader, especially after the turn when Nothum didn't have a Wild Growth and the Murloc just died. It wasn't looking so promising, but he still has options to actually roll over Nothum with that Finja and double War Leader.
Yeah,
the Megazord on top of it is insane as well. So I would not blame him for committing to Relying Blade this turn, get a Tempo Swing on the next turn, guarantee that he has a Murloc basically, and just go face.
Yeah.
The tight court.
I mean, whatever you do, you've got to do it quickly against Jade Druid. It does just pound you into the ground. Do you do that? I think 4 to face is valuable. What are you defending against?
There's no difference between swipe. There's a difference for double ref. Because one ref can be used to kill the War Leader, the second one to cycle, and then to trade. But that's about it. So 4 damage to the face is valuable more. There's the swipe pickup for the War Leader, but at the same time, it seems like this is a better choice. Feral Rage most likely deal with the Tide Collar the same turn, because you can't allow your opponent to have multiple Murlocs on board just to play around the Megazords, just to play around Death Rattle effects. Kartoha raises his hands, I don't know why. Seems like he's blaming RNG that the Druid has cards in his deck.
Yeah, cards in my opponent's deck. How dare he have those? That is a thing.
No way, yeah.
It's the day of my life. I'm playing in the top 8 at DreamHack, and my opponent has cards in his deck. How dare he?
While Kartoha has actually an insane opener, the fact that he has Finja on turn 4 with a War Leader and a Megazord and ready in hand is sick.
Yeah, they both have spectacular starts. I mean, both of these decks have drawn how they would want to draw. Kartoha is going to see what he gets here. Really important. Whatever he gets will make him decide whether he wants to play the War Leader or the Megazord.
Megazord seems better.
Yeah.
Stealth. Death Rattle seems good as well, although Death Rattle is way worse against swipe, but you have no idea if your opponent has a swipe. You already had a lot of removal. Death Rattle effect seems to be the option.
Yeah, Divine Shield's okay as well, but not necessarily here because it's just going to get swiped. Everything gets swiped. It swipes really good against all 3 of these.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like the best... If you can't play around swipe, just pick the most powerful one, which is the Death Rattle effect.
Yeah, I agree.
Although Divine Shield kind of seems tempting because you have War Leader in your hand, and then you can buff up the attack and trade up.
It's kind of the same. You either swipe the plants or you swipe the Divine Shield. It's kind of the same thing, except, like you say, you went for the more powerful, and that's what he did. And Nothum's still got all of the tools he needs, apart from mana. He has more mana than he should, but not as much as he needs to get all of this done. Next turn, Kartoha is... I mean, he's still on curve, lovely. Next turn, he can play 2 3s of his choice, and then he's got Curator to get yet another reload. Nothum has a lot to do if he's going to get this done. But we say that about Jade Druid so often, and they just get it done.
They get it done. They are the doers.
The doers.
Yeah.
The Jade Druids are the doers. The grimy goons, what are they? They're the don'ters.
This is kind of awkward.
Yeah, he's going to swipe the Megastore, I believe. No?
Yeah, he will, but Aya gets removed next turn as well. Kartoha still has minions on his side.
How do you fancy double Jade Spirit next turn?
Seems like a decent choice.
It does seem like a decent choice, right? Aya's going to die. Double Jade Spirit is just going to start the Jade train that we talked about earlier. The bad pop band are just going to get rolling out there.
Those are really not good pickups. Bog Creeper can be played on curve next turn, and it all depends if you need a minion with 6 attack.
You might do, but you don't know it.
Well, you need to play the Curator as soon as possible as well, which sets up a little bit less pressure, but I still think it's good enough.
Plants versus Golems. Sounds like a game coming to you very soon.
By Blizzard. New mobile game, now we know what they're developing.
Seems
Genius
good.
plan.
Yep, here come the Golems. They're definitely bigger than the plants. Have it on good authority.
That helps a little bit. So, is this the turn when Kartoha needs to be defensive or offensive? What do you think?
I mean, this is the problem you have playing against Jade Druid. You want to be offensive all the time, and you get to the point where you struggle to be offensive. And that's the situation he finds himself in. I think you have to just do the numbers. A 6/8 Bog Creeper, does that hold off? It does. It has to be traded into. You can afford to push a little bit face. But they've got Earthen Scales. They've got Feral Ragers. They can just gain armor. You have to assume they haven't got that armor gain and just try and chip this 22 away. But this is where you start realizing that your DreamHack is in a serious jeopardy.
It is. The Jade Golems are definitely problematic. Now the size of every single one will be actually very intimidating. But there's a small chance that the Druid will whiff on draws. And what do you do then?
He's actually found a decent, yeah, you've got to take advantage of it. He's found a way to at least protect this War Leader to get the damage through he didn't get through last turn. All right, there's the whiff, kind of. He wants to use the Wild Growth.
The Wild Growth on turn 9 is not really something that he wants to do. So he needs to commit to Falnos and the Ooze, probably, because it doesn't really matter if you kill the weapon when you're behind on board. You need to get back. Like, you need to get back as soon as possible, otherwise you will lose the game. And I would not blame him to just play the Ooze right now. Get a free minion on the board.
You ooze, you lose. I don't know. Just sounds good.
Are you kidding me?
He decided he's got the time to be greedy with this auctioneer play. But he's going to lose the board because of it. See where this ends up.
Now the Deathwing is in the hand.
Right.
Nothum, of course, doesn't know if it's Deathwing or Promoter Drake.
But he knows.
Oh, wait, he actually knows, because
Yeah.
there's no Promoter deck in the Promoter card.
So he knows. Primordial card. And this is why you don't name cards.
Yes, I'm really bad
Primordial
at that.
card, Ooze card, Mega card.
Sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh!
All right, so Kartoha having this trouble every single turn of how to deliver enough damage to give himself a chance. The difficulty is he has to factor in armor gain, and then he has to factor in the only way he wins is if Nothum has nothing anyway. So just delivering as much face as he dares.
Well, the fact that Nothum did whiff on the previous turn was actually insane for Kartoha, but now is he able to play Golem's distance? There's the Jade Idol. That's something that he needed, desperately needed. What is the size of the 6/6? I think it is.
This was the gamble he took when last turn he didn't play the Auctioneer Wild Growth and just decided to not occupy the board with the Ooze or anything. This is the gamble he took, and this is the result he's going to get one way or the other. Let's see how it works out for him.
He doesn't seem to be comfortable with the options with the auctioneer, so that spells a little bit of problems with time management this turn because he's taking a lot of the time to make those obvious decisions with the innervate, and this might cost him. Look at that, he still would draw cards, and this is taking a lot of time.
This is inexperience. This is somebody who hasn't played enough Jade Druid, because I've seen Tyler play these turns where you just go for it straight away and just go with instinct. How much is he actually going to get done here?
He didn't play a single Jade Idol this turn.
He cleared up the board, but I don't think that's enough. It's going to work out to be enough, but if your opponent had his True Silver here, this would have worked out badly. It's going to work out okay for him because the auctioneer is going to live, but that was inexperience with the deck. I think that's somebody who doesn't play much Jade Druid.
Oh my. Well, this seems out of control right now.
Yeah, your only question here is, do you play FanDuel first and shuffle in a million Jade Druids, or do you play it last and draw your other cards, like your Jade Behemoth, to sort of safety up the situation?
Well, you need Earthen Scales, and you need Feral Rage.
Yes.
So I definitely agree with the Jade Idol first, although I'm not sure why did he shuffle it in, actually.
Because he's got the other one in hand, so he's going to decide what to do with the other one later. But yeah, you're right. If he's going to shuffle it in, he might as well just play FanDuel first, actually.
No. I think just the first Jade Idol should have been a Golem.
Yes, it should.
And build up the board presence, because he needs that to do that anyway.
That's what I mean. If he's shuffling anyway, then you play FanDuel and you get the Golem and the shuffle out of it.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is that he needs board presence, because he will never win the game without having board presence.
Right.
And now by shuffling 2 Jade Idols, he kinda sacrificed a lot of mana just to have bigger potential, but smaller impact on the board.
Right.
And now he cannot commit to more cheap Jade Idols. Okay, now he got it, but still, this is really weird, really odd.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't just play the first one as a minion and just see what he drew.
One Murloc on the board for Kartoha. That is a Murloc, so poisonous is not as big of a deal as it could have been in many of those matchups. So now he needs to think about, how do I deal with those minions? No Tarim.
I'm not sure he knew what he was fishing for with that auctioneer. I don't think he had a plan on that turn.
I think this is like inexperience, the exhaustion and the nerves on stage playing a huge role for Nothum.
There is a danger when you put together a lineup of 4 decks that you practice the ones you think are hard and you leave alone the ones you think are easy, and suddenly in the heat of the action you need to do a turn in 75 seconds that makes an important decisions and you're just not sure where to go with it, and that's how that felt. It is also 2-all in front of his home crowd, of course. It's not the easiest thing to do, even if you know what to do.
Definitely true. Well, seems like a... Oh, okay. I thought he will go for the Megazord this turn. All right. Well, he builds a huge board presence, which is bigger than those Jades. So that's pretty awkward for Nothum.
Get them out there.
Huh.
Just to be clear, there is no equality in Kartoha's deck. There's no reason at all not to just put a whole bunch of Jades out there and then taunt up.
Toned up?
Well, like Behemoth or Earthen Scales.
And there's a looming dragon.
There is, but you just play more of them then, and then you just kill the dragon with them.
Oh yeah, I agree. He already shuffled, I think, 3 times the Jade Idols? Or 2? 2 for sure.
At least 2.
The Feral Rage is an equalizer for the damage and the armor right now with that huge Spike-Root Steed. Another Jade Golem comes down. It is awkward for Kartoha. I don't see him getting a commanding lead right now when he's facing a bigger and bigger Jade Golem each turn. Even that Deathwing doesn't really make a difference when your opponent is at a healthy stand point with 20 HP.
Yeah, it's just not good. You know, you've got to hit them twice with that Deathwing, and it's just not going to happen. You know he's got a handful of JD stuff by now. And he can even just throw a Primordial in the way of it while he plays 2 more Jades down. It's just looking really grim.
Huh.
And the trouble is now, like you asked a few turns ago, now he is on the defensive Kartoha, and if you're on the defensive against a deck that just has more stuff than you, that's not going to work out well. So you've got to find a way to push damage, and it may just be a case of play Deathwing and know you've lost. If you get your opponent down to 11 before you do that, so that you can kill them with a Deathwing, that's a bonus, and that's what he's going to go with. He's just going to try and get as much through and then play Deathwing.
Goes for the winning play, because that's the only scenario that makes a difference here.
And this is what Nothum, I mean, Nothum does this turn instantly because this is what he was waiting to happen. He's just going to block it off, play 2 Jades, and now Kartoha is going to need his 3rd Spite Ridge Steed, I think it will be.
Oh.
Tyrion works?
Well, it does work. It soaks enough damage, unless there's a ref.
2nd Earthen Scales? Have we seen both?
No, well, ref doesn't make a difference, what I'm talking about. Still, 1 off because of the Gluttonous Ooze. Actually, 6 off because of the armor generation. So, for Kartoha, it looks like the best possible draw. But we know that Nothum is holding the answers to that Ashbringer.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I wish he'd get going because we've seen how he's not comfortable with the rope right now.
But this is the 6 damage that he was lacking. So 1 damage picked off would be good enough. But now with the Deathwing dead, I don't think there's anything what Kartoha can do to win this game anymore.
No, no equality. Deathwing dead. There was another Spite Ridge. It wasn't his 3rd one. But this is just going through the motions, hoping your opponent makes a mistake now, I think.
Mistake
Clear
by
the board
playing
entirely.
Cards? Disconnecting. That's probably would be a mistake.
I got the best deals anywhere.
The Spanish crowd's probably gone really quiet just now because they're getting ready to explode in a minute.
Shuffling again. I guess he cannot lose this game anyway, so doesn't really make a difference.
Kartoha puts him out of his misery, and the hometown boy is into the semi-finals against the UK player, Ben.
Although he needs to step up his Jade Golem
He does.
play because it was really shaky. We have heard actually a lot of people cheer right now watching him. So there's a crowd as... that's nothing new. Nihil Novi here in Valencia. Subtle, I saw your reactions a little bit, you know, with my peripheral vision.
I was raging, yeah. First things first, though, I actually went out into the crowd. There's 2 broadcasts actually being broadcast out in the main floor of this. There's the English feed being pumped out on one side, Spanish commentary feed, broadcast partners who are just to our right here. They were being pumped out to the other side. So I was actually sat out in the Spanish crowd watching the Spanish broadcast. Didn't understand a word of what was going on, but the crowd were delighted with what was happening. You know, they played Dirty Rat and ripped a thing from below in the opening matchup, and the crowd just went wild. It was insane to be out there. That's the big upside of what we saw, that the hometown Spanish boys are still performing. 2 Spaniards now in the top 4, giving them, you know, just raw odds, 50-50 chance of taking this one home. But yeah, if that one is going to be Nothum, he needs to tighten up the play, because some of those auctioneer turns in particular were a hot mess. Would that be a fair way to describe it?
That's how you've described it, so it is now.
Yeah, well, it was a grueling match. It took actually quite a while. From a 2-0 to a decider game between those 2 players. I'm really happy that we have those new faces in the tournament, but they need to step up the game, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of talk about the difference between a pro player and a great player, right? And you can see those differences in small things that maybe not decide the game in a particular situation, but are deciding games in the big picture of an entire player's career, right?
And that is why you sometimes see these players have one result here that looks a bit shaky, but then they go away and they play against more solid players. They get into a team or they get into a playtest group, and suddenly they come back 6 months later. It's like, this guy was rubbish, but now he's amazing, because they're testing on ladder where they